Hello, I'm Kelly Wymer, and I'm going to teach you how paper airplanes fly. You'll be able to name 4 forces that act upon a paper airplane as they fly by the end of this lesson, and you will be able to explain how those forces affect the plane. Then you will also be able to briefly explain how these 4 forces affect 4 airplanes that you get to observe in flight. So let's get started. So the 4 forces are lift, drag, thrust, and gravity. Okay, gravity is the downward force of a paper that the paper airplane encounters. So as we all know, gravity pushes down on objects, pulling them towards the center of the earth. Drag is the air resistance that the airplane encounters as it flies through the air. Thrust is the force and energy given to the airplane as we launch it. Lift, it occurs when the pressure from under the paper airplane is greater than the air pressure above it, pushing the airplane upwards. Okay? So thrust and lift. Thrust occurs when the plane first gets thrown. Okay? As it begins to fly, the paper airplane cuts through the air, overcoming the air resistance. The air then flows more quickly over the top of the airplane than it does underneath. Because of this, it creates a small vacuum right up here on the top of the wing. The vacuum causes lower pressure on the top, and the slower air moving underneath the wing causes a higher pressure, pushing the airplane up, and we have lift. Okay, gravity and drag. Gravity, again, is the force pushing it down. So as the airplane continues to push through the air resistance, or the air particles that you can kind of feel as you move through the air, it eventually starts to slow the airplane down. And as it does that, the air that's moving over the top of the wings that was moving so much faster before starts to slow down as well. As that happens, it starts to reduce the amount of lift, and the airplane begins to give into gravity and fall towards the ground. The planes with the thinner, smaller wings, they are able to cut through the air resistance a little bit better, but they have a tendency to nosedive into the ground, also because of that same phenomenon. These airplanes are considered gliders, and because they have a much wider base, they don't cut through the air quite so easily, and they encounter drag much more quickly. And so they don't go forward as fast, but they do have a more gentle, tumbly type descent towards the ground. Okay, so let's check this out. The dark green airplane here on the top and this blue airplane here on the left, those are considered dark planes, much like this one here. And as you can see, they have a sleeker, they have a nice design that makes it easier for them to cut through the air. And then you have the gliders down on the bottom, the green one and the yellow one, the small green one and the yellow one. And they don't cut through the air as easily, so they don't go as far, and they end up tumbling and falling to the ground. So let's watch this. The green dart, you'll see there's the thrust, and now it's moving through the air, and eventually it starts to slow down, and it nosedives right to the ground. But it does go pretty far. This airplane happened to go 18.5 feet. Then you have this one here. As it starts to fly through the air, it has the thrust, and the air is moving over those wings pretty quickly, causing lift, but it eventually, the drag overcomes it, slows it down, and lift is reduced, and gravity takes over, and it nosedives in. Now, my son got in the way, you weren't able to see it, but it did land nose first into the grass. Okay, so here is a glider. You'll see how its wider wing base causes it to hit. It goes forward a little bit, but as you can see, it immediately encounters the drag and starts to fall to the ground, but it takes a little bit longer for it to fall down. That's also due to its wider base. It slowly falls to the ground. The same with the yellow, and almost immediately, the drag is too much for it to overcome. It starts to fall to the ground, but then it's a nice, slow, easy descent. So, in summary, we have 4 forces that act upon the paper airplane. We have lift, thrust, gravity, and drag. The dart planes, they have the smaller wings, so they can cut through the air more easily and move faster and further, but they do a nosedive towards the end. The gliders, They encounter drag way sooner, much sooner, because of their larger, wider design, keeping them from moving forward very much, but it does give them a nice, tumbly, easy, floaty landing. And that is how paper airplanes, fly. Hope you enjoy the lesson and have a great night.